wanted to come over here because they were being bombed and murdered. Where was their caring when he did anything about the refugee camps all around Syria? This war that they're proposing isn't a war because he cares about the people here any more than he cares about the people here. This is a war that's about imperialism. It's about the big dominant powers of this world believing that they've got a right to go around the world and do whatever they want in order to extract as much money and profit as possible. That's what the war in Iraq was about, and they said that it was about Saddam Hussein, and it was nothing to do with Saddam Hussein. It was to do with the oil that's underneath Iraq that they wanted to maintain control of. And they didn't have a plan after bombing, and that's why there was a complete mess and chaos that was created in the death and destruction that they've made us pay for in the war in Iraq. And it was out of that destruction that ISIL have become what they are today. They are a terrible organisation, but they were created by the last war that we did in the Middle East, and throwing more bombs in won't create less ISILs, but it will create more anger and more frustration, out of which more ISILs and more bombings will occur. It's not about making us safe, because they live in gated communities and it's people like us who get bombed, never people like them. It's our children that get sent out to die, not their children, and it's ordinary people in Syria who die. It's always poor people who are the victims of this. And what shocks me, when I work in the health service, and when we have to decide what we're doing, every single penny is questioned by this government that says we have to clear the debt, that somehow austerity is the only thing that matters. Every person who leaves in the health service, there's a huge fight and argument to get them replaced, and we have longer queues and longer waiting lists. When did any of them say, how much does a bomb cost? How much does a plane cost? How much does that cost? And is this really our priority? Manchester Mental Health Services said last week that it is no longer viable because it has £7 million worth of cuts to make, and it can only make £4 million of them. Well, if £3 million is the difference between providing care for people in mental health, and that's one or two bombing raids by one or two planes, what sort of crazy government have we have that somehow thinks killing people is a priority, but it can't afford to look after some of the most vulnerable people that we have here? And I think people in the West, people in England, just as much as people in the Middle East, are fed up of wars, are fed up of bombing, are fed up of things that have done no good. And they have very, very cynically used the horror that all of us felt when we saw the tragedy in Paris to try and win a quick vote for war before we realise what on earth is this war going to achieve and what's it for. And that's why we do have to stand up and say we will not let this happen. We will not let them blackmail and coerce into something that makes the situation even worse than the horrible situation they've all created so far. Britain and America should stay out of the Middle East, and it should stop looking